Every Monday in November, CBS 12 News This Morning has featured our roundtable discussions with teachers, parents, students about how school's been going in 2020.
I've got the smartboard, I have the Chromebook, and I have the desktop. And sometimes one does not want to talk to the other.
It's been good. My mom just really wants me to go back to school.
I want to be very clear. I think this distance learning model has changed public education forever, and I don't think it'll ever go away.
We sat down with 5 parents as part of a Zoom roundtable to ask them about their biggest issues with the return to school.
And 2 of those parents are keeping their kids home to learn virtually, and they told us they do feel like their children are falling behind.
So when school started, my second grader had a teacher, and then she didn't. And then she had a substitute teacher, and then she didn't. And then she ended up getting her permanent teacher maybe 2 weeks ago.
He's communicating with the teacher online. However, he's giving answers, but because maybe she can't hear it or something going on with the internet or whatever the case may be, it's like repeating and repeating and repeating. And when he repeats so many times, he gets frustrated. And when he's frustrated, now he's gone.
Like me, most parents, we work and we're running other businesses and doing so many other things at once. It's almost as if we just don't have enough time in the day to really complete most of the assignments.
So difficult for a lot of these parents trying to juggle all this.
I don't think technology is going away. So any parent who hates it, I'm sorry.
I love using the Google Meet to reach all of my students the way I did in the classroom.
We are becoming tech savvy, whether we like it or not.
But for Boca Raton elementary school teacher Edith Pride, while she is learning some new tricks, for her, nothing can replace brick and mortar teaching.
I have books in my room that they don't have, or I have materials that I want to give them that I can't necessarily give them. So I still always will love having the children with me.
Teachers are using more screens than ever before and more apps and more social networks, and they're depending much, much more on good Wi-Fi.
I've got the smartboard, I have the Chromebook, and I have the desktop. And sometimes one does not want to talk to the other. And there are days when my students, do you want me to help you? And I'm like, well, you know what? You can walk me through this one because they know a little bit more than I do.
But even though sometimes this technology can be confounding, they know they're finding new ways to reach their students.
You have to keep up, you have to learn, you have to adapt and grow.
The bonus the world has is teachers are learners and we're fixers. It's what we do.
Each of the superintendents that we spoke to said they understand how difficult this year has been for everyone, while candidly adding that even they don't have all the answers.
I never hear anything from the district.
One complaint we heard loud and clear from teachers and even parents was about communication from the top.
I didn't think the district did a great job in letting parents know.
They don't feel like they're getting enough clear and current information from district leaders. So I brought that concern right to them.
Is there anything that can be done to try to keep teachers more in the loop about the big things that are going on in their classrooms?
Well, we realized getting the feedback from our teachers and principals that we needed to stabilize enrollments. Hopefully now the stabilization, which occurred officially on the 4th of November, will allow us to not have that same movement in and out. I think as we become more comfortable with our systems, our protocols, we are getting that information out faster than we once were.
Another serious concern shared by parents and students is the quality of remote learning.
I feel like he's falling behind a lot.
There's so much more I can learn in a classroom than I am doing right now.
The administrators admitted there's a drop-off with distance learning they're trying to address.
That's one of our concerns right now is the inequities for the kids that are at home. If the parents aren't actively involved, their grades will suffer. And so we're trying to work with them so that they don't and build in, try to assist them with additional lessons and additional resources.
So it is working with families in the midst of this unprecedented time to find educational environments that are both safe and where families feel comfortable, while at the same time providing meaningful instruction to students.
And finally, students who are back on campus right now tell CBS 12 News COVID rules are simply not being followed through the school day.
There's not a lot of social distancing going on in the hallways as much as they'd like to say that there is.
And we are seeing COVID numbers rise in area schools, so we wanted to know, is that pandemic fatigue?
So no, actually, we haven't seen that inside the schools. Our principals and teachers and other administrators are just working really hard. We are seeing an uptick in cases. Most of those cases are happening outside of the schools and then brought into the schools.
And these district leaders agree staying vigilant and aware is a daily battle.
It is stressful. It is stressful on everyone that is in the building. So it's being very intentional of always reminding us why we have to take these steps, because we don't want to close the doors to our schools.
And certainly that's the last thing that everyone wants to see, right? The doors closing. When we talked with teachers, parents, and kids, one thing they all wanted to know was what comes next in January and beyond. Well, who better to ask than our superintendents?
Leading in a pandemic is absolutely not fun at all.
Dr. David Moore took over as Indian River County superintendent 40 days before the coronavirus shut schools down. He says trying to outthink or anticipate this pandemic has been a huge challenge.
If we would have thought that we'd be, at a higher percent daily positive rate when school started, going into 2 months, I don't think anyone would have said that they thought that would be the reality, but here we are.
There was no manual for this. Everybody's just day to day.
Okeechobee Assistant Superintendent Dylan Tetters is seeing the stress of COVID play out in his schools every day.
We're starting to see, some of those long-term impacts from the mental health standpoint. So our mental health counselors are in schools every day. I mean, they're talking to students, they're talking to staff. It's just been tough. And we've been doing this every day since March.
Whatever the social issue is, and you go back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, it's always been put on the public schools. And we've always risen to the occasion.
St. Lucie County Superintendent Wayne Gent is worried about PPE and other expenses to keep his school buildings safe. If the district doesn't get more federal funding, he's worried about not having enough staff and being able to move forward on important non-COVID projects.
Our budgets are stretched pretty tight, so you have to take money from from other areas in order to make sure that the safety needs are met.
I want to be very clear. I think this distance learning model has changed public education forever, and I don't think it'll ever go away.
In our largest school district, Palm Beach County, the massive investment in remote learning has permanently changed how students are going to learn moving forward.
We've invested probably just in our district alone, hundreds of millions of dollars in distance learning, to include upgrading our infrastructure, buying laptops, Wi-Fi. I doubt seriously we're going to undo that entire infrastructure once we get past COVID.
Get past COVID, a dream that, like everyone else, these superintendents hope will be realized soon, but they know they have to prepare for the worst.
We can't continue to say this is temporary or this too shall pass. There are things that we are going to learn that will ultimately allow us to be more effective at preparing the needs of our students moving forward.
And Dr. Moore notes that there's an upside to learning remotely. It's preparing students for the changing realities of the working world, where more and more people are just learning from home, giving up the conference boardrooms and to go for the kitchen table. And so this is actually preparing kids for the future.
Absolutely. Something I found interesting too is throughout the month, the parents, the teachers, the kids, the administrators we just heard from, they wanted to talk about this. They wanted to talk about what's working and also what is not working. I just thought it was really interesting and awesome that they were all willing to talk through this, because we're all adjusting.
Yeah, and the superintendents, they don't have all the answers. And I know that a lot of parents and teachers and kids think that they do, but they don't. Everyone's just working for the best that they can day by day.